Okay, it's alive, everybody. Ask questions, put comments in. I'll try to keep on that.
I didn't even post that going live yet. You probably did something.
Yeah, it's on there too. Okay, here we go. Just left. Okay. Disclaimer.
Well, welcome everyone to the Rise Up Hour today. I am so excited. Today I have Maj John Donovan here, and he's been on the show we did it remote, and actually my phone couldn't plug in that day with audio, so I had to hold it up to the mic. To the microphone, and that was a blessing day, because that's how I got my assistant Bridge, who actually had come to my show before, and so things happen for a purpose. And you want to talk about purpose? That's why things can happen. So and I've been blessed ever since. So Maj John Donovan, I welcome back from Florida, and I'm gonna make a couple quick announcements. But we, everyone's been kind of going crazy that you're on the show. I've had a lot of people reach out, a lot of likes, and I'm just so excited to have you. And thanks for coming down from St. Cloud. So we'll start talking in a few moments. But I'm just going to make a couple announcements. For those of you in the Frogtown community, just so you know, the free clothing store at Faith Lutheran Church, 499 Charles Avenue. It's just part of their Frogtown neighborhood mission. If you need anything, every Thursday from 12 to 2. And then you can also get free frozen meals donated from the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office. And there's also bakery goods down there. And then for those of you who need a recovery coach, Minnesota Recovery Connection is the place to get this free service. 612-584-4158 or minnesotarecovery.org. And one of the things I want to mention about, if you need telephone recovery support, it's a perfect place to get that. You can fill something out online or call them up, and we'll call you weekly and to see how you're doing. And it's a great place to volunteer your hours too. And then they also have the virtual online all recovery meetings, and I gotta tell you, family, friends, all are welcome to this. It's Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And on Saturdays, there's an 11 o'clock meeting. And I got to tell you, I do the Saturday meeting at 5 o'clock. And I got to tell you, it's like a family. You get to talk about anything if you're stressed out. And if you're a peer out there, it's great for peer supports as well. And you just get to have a space to feel safe. And there's been a lot of new people coming on, and it's really great because people are early in recovery, wanting recovery, or people who've been in recovery. It's a great place just to be able to talk and rely on each other. And like I said, they have that free navigator service, recovery coach, peer-to-peer support, and you can make $1 million or you can make $0. It's all at no cost to you. And then those of you who need like some family recovery resources out there, I think that's become really important for families who are not sure what to do. ThriveFamilyRecoveryResources.org. That is a really important source for families for loved ones or suffering from substance abuse, co-occurring disorders. And one of the other things I want to mention, actually Bridge is going to mention who our guest next week is, because I'm really excited. So it's Bridge, go ahead.
Just a heads up. So next week, from the Way Out podcast, Justin Rundin will be on. That's exciting.
Yes, it is.
Rundin,
right?
Rundin.
It'll be from the Way Out podcast. And I can't wait, because I've watched some of this stuff. Really intense, actually. Pretty really intense. And we've had Charlie on here, and he's pretty amazing too. So what they do is pretty amazing in the community as well for those in recovery. And now let's talk about someone who really does amazing things in the recovery community, and especially for St. Cloud. So Maj Donovan, can you just tell me a little bit about your background, and then And the reason I'm saying Major Donovan, because you're quite an accomplished man. And then also, you guys, he's not only a major, not only a veteran, he's also the director of, go ahead.
The Recovery Community Network in St. Cloud.
And he's also an author. So we're going to be talking about several things today. So let's start out with your background. Go ahead, and then we're going to go right into a song after that, okay?
Outstanding. Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here. Appreciate what you're doing on behalf of the recovery community. It's so, so important. My story starts out much like all of yours. You know, I was born at a very early age. And I was born into an alcoholic family. My first drink was at 4 years old. I was in the throes of alcoholism by the time I was 9 years old. And I found recovery when I was 15. Went through treatment. That was in 1978, and I've maintained continuous sobriety, continuous clean time ever since then. So coming up on 44 years this year.
Wow, that's, and I'm going to say something. We hear different stories. What's interesting about your story, and I'm also mentioning people, they can call in or text questions. You started at 4, your first drink.
Yeah.
And then you talk about 15. You were like into the early ages, and what's pretty amazing is the accomplishments you've been able to do. For those listening, is oftentimes they say when it's that early, you really don't come out of it. You're able not to achieve. And for those who've heard those, because this show is about giving hope and having those know that what we hear sometimes is not what necessarily works. Because look what you've done and achieved. I really believe those early years are important, but those early years too, we can overcome and overachieve and do well in recovery because that's what it's about. And I just think it's amazing that you've done that. So for those of you who are listening, take a moment, write these numbers down. 651-313-5125. That's for live questions. That's 651-313-5125. Or you can text me at 763-843-4262. That's 763-843-4262. And let's continue on with what you were telling us about you started recovery. So it's been 44 years.
Yeah. And got back into high school. And I was a horrible student. I really was. But understandably so, because recovery was so important that I really focused my entire being on that. For my first 365 days of sobriety, I went to 365 self-help meetings. I had a counselor, I had a probation officer, I was involved in therapy, I was involved in aftercare. My whole life focused on recovery. And academics were something that I was doing, but I wasn't passionate about. I really wasn't giving my full to it. I did manage to graduate from high school and got accepted at St. Cloud State University. Go Huskies. Mm-hmm. And through there, I found that I wanted to go into the self-help facilitating field. Had dreams of being a drug and alcohol counselor. That's what we called them at that time. And started the first self-help meeting at St. Cloud State.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was really cool. This is the early 80s. They had heretofore never had anything like that. And we had students, professors, and staff from SCSU who would meet on a weekly basis in a room in Atwood. We called ourselves Students Enjoying Sobriety. And we would have this weekly self-help meeting. And through that fellowship, that camaraderie, I kind of found what I wanted to do in life. Finished up my higher education, finished up my 4-year degree, and then I joined the military. And I served 27 years in the military, retired as a major with the Minnesota Army National Guard. Used to work about 2 blocks from here at the state capitol and Cedar Street Armory. You have a question?
Yeah, I got a burning desire because you also said you had a probation officer.
Yeah.
That kind of took me for a moment, and then it's interesting. You were active in your recovery. You really wanted that. That was something that was unknown of back then. So you grabbed onto the thing about wanting to have that recovery. And so one of the most amazing parts about it is that you created something for St. Cloud, because even right now I know St. Cloud has these great programs for even college kids who are struggling if they're having alcohol issues or don't know where they're at. I know there's meetings for them because I know an individual who has gone to one of the meetings because St. Cloud State takes a lot of city boys and kids to college, and then they have some programs to assist them. But it's interesting how you've been someone who's created that in the community and sobriety. And so what made you switch to that? And then we're going to go into songs after this. What got you into the military from probation, college to military? That just is such an interesting format for such a young kid who had such went from alcoholism to this whole new world of thinking.
Well, and for another time or at another lecture or workshop, I talk about the similarities between the military culture and the recovery culture. But a wonderful thing, the military has what they call morality waivers. So if you've done things where law enforcement has slapped your hand, the first thing to do is to come clean with your recruiter. Don't hold anything back. And where do we learn that? We learn that in recovery, right? Mm-hmm. Rigorous honesty. Just be out front with it. This is what I did, and I have made amends for it, and this is where I'm going. And when you do that stuff, the military will work with you.
Oh, okay. I actually did not know that. I thought that was something that could prevent you from being in the military.
There are exceptions, but if you're forthcoming and you're willing to do the work, you're willing to meet with a psychiatrist or a psychologist to get a signed off waiver that says this person would thrive and survive in the military, things of that nature. You could present that to your recruiter, and it goes up a long chain. But then somebody reads it and goes, "Yep, okay, we'll take this person in." Oh, wow. So for your listeners, if anybody is thinking about that, just because they've had a run-in with the law is not an automatic showstopper. We like to say in the military, where there's a will, there's a waiver.
Okay, I like that. I really like that. So with that being said, we're going to take into going to song right now. And then any of you guys have questions out there, remember you can text at 763-843-4262 or call in at 651-313-5125. And Bridge has got something coming. What song is it?
Horse with No Name.
Oh, Horse with No Name. Okay. So these are different songs from the last time. I didn't really look at that when I was busy trying to do all this other... Oh, I know the song.
I was adopted, and my parents were a generation older than all my friends' parents. So I grew up on the 50s and the 60s. All my friends grew up in the 60s and the 70s. So I'm thankful because there's a lot of great music that they did, but still are my favorites. Nobody knew who they were all listening to KWB or whatever. Like, I know the Supremes. And
so how many people do you have working with you up in St. Cloud?
It's not a lot. And
you guys have navigated through AmeriCorps?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
That's a great organization.
So there's Cynthia Jeannie, there's Rick, and Haven, and then Kelly, and myself. So there are 6 staff members.
Okay.
And then we have a cadre of volunteers, and then I have 7 board members.
Okay, cool. Oh, wow, okay. Yeah, I saw your board. I looked up your organization.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, wow. So, did you start the organization then?
I did, yeah.
And then is MRC your financial sponsor then?
So MRC, I like to call Wendy my boss, and then she smiles and says, "John, I'm not your boss," and I say, "Okay, boss." So MRC is kind of our
advisory, or
kind of higher headquarters.
Yes,
we have a grant that we get money from the state, and then we actually pay them.
Okay.
And then they have a grant from the state where they actually pay us.
Okay.
So we.
They're an amazing organization.
I love
and then she has all that stuff on top of all she does. She has all that stuff going on. I mean, she's amazing in what she does, and she's grown MRC in the last 2 years, especially. I just feel like MRC has really done amazing work.
Yeah, she has, and that's the hope of...
And like the walk, I did my first walk last year. So I did, I was with Recovery Cafe, and then I did my volunteer time. And I had, because I did the, people wear the sachets, they for their recovery time and all that. And when they want their recovery thing, they want their time. But we ran out of ribbons, so we still gave them ones with just, different thing on there, and they still got to have it, and I wrote the years on it. But the most beautiful thing about it is that there's others that said they saw it, because I also did a naloxone training at the market, with, being a part of the PAC committee with Steve Rumble Hope Network, and people remembered, and they're like, I'm going to come to that, because they shut down for the year.
Yeah.
And it reminds people that they want to volunteer or do something because they know how much they've touched the community. And MRC is really known, you say the word, people know that this is an organization that really cares about the community. Not anything else, but they care about the community. And they believe in diversity.
Yeah.
That is really critical. And that she's built up that.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the job of any good leader.
Yes.
That they can move the organization forward, expand the organization, stabilize the organization. And Wendy has done that.
I was going to say right into the next song.
No, we're on song 2. Remember?
Yep, I was gonna say right into our next song. I was going to say that. Okay.
And then you can break up because there's the one uneven song, so we could do back to back next, or we could just do one song.
Yep, and then another 2.
Yes.
Okay.
Or whatever.
5.
We'll go slow. I kind of picked
Oh, there we
longer
go.
songs to go first.
Thank him for his service for our country and sharing his story from Terry, P. Wade, and Jackie. Woohoo. Okay. I will be announcing that.
Yes. Make sure you get book information too, so they can get his book.
Yes. And we're going to talk about that after. We'll go into that little segment after we ask that.
Mm-hmm.
I love the way you're passionate when you speak. And by the way, Caddy's pretty amazing over there too.
Oh, yeah.
She's got a good team of people. And now Amy's there again, so.
Amy.
Amy, remember she used to be she was with she was the opioid response person before,
Okay.
and now she's the took over Majority's job.
Oh, okay.
So
She's great. She's getting things rolling.
yeah,
That is
I
so
mean I know
cool.
everyone and
Kelly?
Kelly, and now also media person puts out.
Oh, Kate.
Kate, I'm learning all of them, and Justin, he does just amazing work too.
Justice Involved.
Yeah, amazing. That Justin involved is
Yep.
really a big thing. 'Cause, I used to think really differently, and I did what you did. I heard it, and I've taken a 180, but it's because I'm listening to both sides. And I used to have a strong opinion, but my opinion has changed, and I have to apologize. See, when I'm wrong, I will admit when I'm wrong and accept it and move the pen forward and explain that my passion and know that you can change your view on something.
Yep.
But when it's heard the wrong way,
Well, and we throw that word opinion around a lot. You hear it on the media all the time, talking heads, and I think sometimes we have forgotten the true definition of an opinion. A true definition of an opinion is a person who is studied in a particular subject and then has formed an opinion, right? So without, bringing in facts and reading and researching it, it's not really an opinion. It's just somebody who's stating a position.
Judgment?
Yeah.
yes.
And
Stigma?
and so, as a learned person as yourself, somebody who's open to differing viewpoints and the willingness to reach across the aisle, right? Then you can adjust your opinion because you're taking in
And I'm
information.
doing that frequently, all the time in recovery.
Yeah, we have to.
Have to. Oh my gosh. I mean, that's the world of recovery right now. I mean, you've probably had, it's changed the recovery for you in the field, hasn't it? I mean, it's really taken but don't you feel it's coming to a beautiful journey now? It's gone through a lot of hurdles, but recovery is becoming like a flower, and it's gotten stronger roots, and it's growing, and it's...
Well, one of the things, and one of my board members mentioned the other day, how unusual this is and how beautiful. On LinkedIn, the professional, like Facebook, right, for employers and workers and opinion makers, it's amazing how many people will be in industry leaders. I'm celebrating 10 years of recovery today. I'm celebrating 5 years of recovery today. And these stories are coming out all the time.
Yeah, because people used to judge, not ignore. Recovery is an important word.
1 minute.
Because I don't say, with me, I don't say I'm an alcoholic or an addict, and because I don't use those languages anymore.
Right.
I use a whole new language. Well, I'm not an alcoholic, but I don't. Was an addict or anything? I don't say that because why would I need to? Because I'm not. I'm in recovery.
Yes, I say bridge recovery, and I love it because I still go to my 12-step meetings. And just last night, I started going out. They're like, "Well, I'm an alcoholic in recovery." They're changing it. It's great.
Yeah, and I've heard.
You can say whatever you want.
Yeah, and accept it now. Used to get like that.
Okay, I'm gonna fade it out. Ready?
Mm-hmm. Well, look at that. You got some good music. So talk about this music real quick, and then I got a couple remarks that I'm going to share.
Sure.
So go ahead.
Well, the first song from America is called A Horse with No Name, and all the imagery is about the desert. And whenever I hear it, it takes me back to Iraq. The starkness of the desert, the heat, and the oppressive nature of the desert. But, from a spiritual standpoint, deserts are kind of interesting because when you kind of take everything back, when you roll everything back, when a landscape is stark and kind of void of like trees and water and all these other things, it almost does the same thing to your soul. And and so some of my most intense spiritual moments were being in the desert, and I think of people who have made journeys in the desert, the person of Jesus Christ, the person of Moses, these incredible spiritual experiences that happen in a desert. And just reading the Bible, it never really dawned on me until I was in the desert myself, and I was like, oh, I kind of get this, because when there's nothing else to distract you, it's just kind of you and your higher power.
Yeah, that's pretty deep, because I'm Jordanian, by the way, so born in Christian descent, so it's a little different for the Middle East, but I've been to the Dead Sea as well, and then I've been like the desert areas, but it's very different. And when I floated and thought of the full moon and the spirituality in Israel, and you think of the Holy Land, and you realize this is, and I went to the Jordan River and the water that came down, and these were things from the Bible.
Yeah.
It really took me to another place, and you feel like with one, and it's very deep. And even when you feel at a loss, it's kind of interesting. And I love the way you're able to put different perspective towards things, because you're in a very and for your case, you're in a really devastating area, but you're able to put yourself with a higher power, and that's a beautiful thing to be able to do, and take that reflection from there, because you're also, from all the sadness, you're able to take something beautiful out of it, and that's really important. So thank you for that moment. And by the way, I got a message from someone who's saying thank him for his service for our country and sharing his story, from Terry P., Wade, and Jackie. Woohoo! So thank you, Jackie, for sharing that. And we are just honored to have Major John Donovan with us. He's been such an inspiration for all of you listeners out there. 651-313-5125 or 763-843-4262 for questions. And any of you listeners out in St. Cloud, just want to say he offers great services out there. There's all recovery meetings as well.
Correct.
And so what are some of the services you offer? And then after that, we're going to talk a little about your book. Because guys, this is amazing. He's also an author. Can we just say more he can do? I always find such a joy talking to you. I really do. There's something just so unique about you. And I got to tell you, I've learned a couple things from you. And I'm going to mention something from you. So when I've worked with a couple veterans, okay, I learned something. And I kind of used the information a little bit from reentry, okay? Because I never knew, I never understood, and this is where opinions come from. We were just talking about, and actually I would like you to share this. I don't think many listeners know this. When we come up with an opinion, or we have an opinion, before you give an opinion, you should know the definition of an opinion, because I think it's actually really important. Today I learned something new. And don't you think, Bridge, you learned something a little new?
Mm-hmm.
Because Major John Donovan, what is an opinion? What is the definition?
Well, an opinion, an opinionated person is a person who has done research on a particular subject. They might be what we call in the military a SME, subject matter expert. And so we bring those people out and we say, okay, well, you've spent a lot of time in the Middle East. What is your opinion about what's going on? Because this person knows the culture, they know the nature, they know the background, they know the history, they know the language, and so they have formed an opinion. Somebody who has no knowledge of a subject and just kind of pontificates on it isn't giving an opinion. You know, they're just kind of spouting off. So an opinion is somebody who's actually done research on the topic, and then they have given their opinion.
Yes, and so talking about a veteran, so I was working with a veteran, and he was very, he had post-traumatic stress, I assume, and then one also I worked with is always had to, I learned a skill that, hey, I'm coming in the room because from behind, nervous, something happened from behind, so he must have had some effect. So he said, always let me know you're coming in the room. I taught him that to speak in language because he got touched on the shoulder and he reacted. And he didn't want to hurt anyone, so he said, how do we fix this? And because we have, this group of friends, and peers, and the decision was made to announce that we're coming in and then come from front because he can handle that. So we learn these special things, and it takes a moment. Just the nicest guy in the world. The other guy, it took me weeks. There was a truck that had come out for a Selby's table at the Faith Lutheran Church and offer free meals, pay as you go. And it took weeks to show trust. And I just listened, because I'm kind of a high energy guy, and who's this high energy guy in recovery, and was dealing with a lot of things. It took a while, but he came to the grand opening of Recovery Cafe Frogtown, and I got to tell you, I got a hug from him, and he says thank you, and we started talking, and he had some deep vetted things, and it was about trust and someone caring about him, not all this other stuff, and just to have someone listen. And so I learned that, when you're dealing with individuals, listening is really important. And so I offered him some places, because if I'm not able to help, I'm going to find something that can help them. And so for veterans, everyone is different, and that's what I find in recovery, that we're all at different skills and different levels, because I've gone through some trauma. We've all dealt with trauma. So if you get to work through trauma, you can move forward with it. And I took a course on trauma just to find out a little bit more how to deal with it, because I also, I don't even want to get into it, but all trauma is different, but the interesting part is that it's okay to have mental wellness issues, and doesn't mean that that's going to be your defining your definition of who you are. And like you're able to get through all this, and it's so amazing that you're able to reach out to veterans as well, because veterans need a place of safety.
Well, I wholeheartedly endorse that, absolutely. At the Recovery Community Network, veterans are our passion. We do specific outreach with our veteran community, and especially veterans in recovery. For so long there was a standard kind of culture that involved drinking in the military, and that's changing, now. To the point when on my first tour in Iraq in 2007, I was stationed in Talil, Iraq, which incidentally was believed to be the birthplace of Father Abraham. Mm-hmm. So an incredibly spiritual location with a lot of historic significance. And when I got there, one of my first trips was to the church, and I was going to say a prayer of gratitude. Thank you, God, for getting me here safely. My eyes fall on a bulletin board, and what do I see? But the Camel Spider Self-Help Group of Talil, Iraq, meets Mondays, Wednesdays, and Sundays. And so I got to a duty location in the middle of a combat zone where there's 3 self-help meetings a week. And I say now in a training that I do on this topic that in Vietnam and Korea and World War II, World War I, there were thousands, millions of GIs who would say, I can't imagine going to war without having a drink. And now hundreds of GIs like myself say, I can't imagine going to war without recovery.
Yeah, and I am going to say something that's interesting, because now I'm going to say something about the pandemic, what I found to be so amazing. We shut down everything, because I was in my early stages of recovery, and the world changed, and this is where I see recovery has been growing. We everywhere found a way to meet for recovery. I would give AA this base that they found meetings all over the world. I was doing meetings in New Zealand, Australia, also New York, where the devastation happened. And then I was there was people. This was interesting. I was doing nightly meetings for months because I did my 90-90, and I wasn't going to mess up my recovery. And I got to reach out and speak, and I learned that my journey got to be different, and then that's what got me into MRC, and I did my training to become a certified peer recovery coach, and I learned that other AA meetings allow you to talk earlier in your recovery versus some, New York was like, hey, speak if you want, and I actually got to speak at one of their meetings, and I was just, I learned about professions, I learned about people. It was important to talk about the recovery, and then I learned about people, shame and all this stuff. And I realized there was so much trauma out there. But one of the things I realized is that the world finally was able, in this devastation time, finally found a space for recovery, where before I just never saw it. In my time, I had sobriety for many years, 7 years, 5 years, but never knew the word recovery. I learned what recovery was, and it changed my whole. I've had it ever since when I found out there was such a thing as recovery, and I did step 1, 2, and 3. My life changed, and I've been speaking about all pathways. I've found out, and opinion. Having a radio show, before I have an opinion, I research a lot, and I can make an opinion because And this show is about my voice, our voice, all different pathways. And I like how you have that. And it's impressive the way you talk so eloquently about recovery, the military. And then the next amazing thing that we're going to go into, and I'm going to talk about this, is, by the way, someone has said this, amazing deserts are spiritual. Thank you for your analogy. Okay, wait, you just got just thank you for talking about that. And the other thing is, I want to say, I just think it's amazing how you have been able to put your energy of recovery and spread the word, shared it. And so when you were there and you saw that there's a meeting, because that was unheard of before, because didn't a lot of people come back from the wars before or addicts had, and I'm going to say this, were in active use, didn't have sources, and veterans really suffered as a tragic part of the war because there was a lot of trauma. There was no other, there wasn't the mental wellness issues with mental health right now. They didn't have those supports, and you really, I find that having that through Desert Storm, did that help you having that support there?
Absolutely.
Was that a game changer, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're changing the narrative in the military. Previously, the picture was a soldier was brave who didn't need help. And now we're changing that narrative to say it takes bravery to say, I need help. It takes bravery to say, I'm thinking of hurting myself. It takes bravery to say, I have a problem with drinking, and I've been drinking since I got back. That is an incredible act of courage. And anybody in recovery, probably listening on the radio right now, is going north and south because we've all been there. And we know how much courage it takes to look your loved one, mom, dad, brother, sister, probation officer, in the eye and say, I messed up, I need help. That is an incredible act of courage. And thank God the military is changing that narrative and allowing soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, Coast Guard personnel, the freedom to say, I need help, and are there services?
And on that note, I'm just going to say this. You know, when you're saying that, it's bravery to say you need help because it's saving lives now. The military's got, the way I'm looking at it is doing that can save lives now too. It's another way of recognizing that there's suffering and pain, but to say, hey, I need this is a way to say, hey, can you save me? Reach out, and it's okay to be there because, hey, there's many of us who've gone through that, and we're coming out of the darkness into the light. And thank you for being such a beacon of light. We're going to go into one of your songs right now, and while the song is going on, if anyone has questions, you can send in text at 763-843-4262, or call in the studio live number at 651-313-5125. I've been waiting for the red light to blink, you guys. I used to have it blinking all the time. And I didn't realize that. I used to think the phone was going to ring, and it's like blinking. So Bridget knows how to answer the phone for me. So, hey, give a call, everyone. Just amazing to have Major John Donovan here. And what song do we have selected right now?
Bonnie Ray?
Oh, Bonnie Ray. Excellent.
Take your time. So when we come back, make sure you did already, but just make sure you have the song title and the artist.
Yep.
Has to be named at least once.
And then we're going to go right into your book because I think it's pretty amazing. I gotta say, the last one's amazing. This one's amazing. You're always amazing.
Well, it's a mutual admiration club.
Yeah, I mean, I just really like. I'm going to tell you, I almost. So I'm emotional because what you're doing. Because I know there was a lot of suffering that happened in the Middle East, unnecessary suffering. When individuals were addicted, because when I was younger, I had a friend who had a father who had flashbacks. And I was already going through my thing, and he heard noise because we were next to a bridge, and he heard noise, and he would start screaming, "They're coming!" and they're shooting, and I didn't know what to do, and he grabbed me and he said, "Hide!" And his son was really scared that I was going to leave, and I was used to that because I came from an abusive home, so I'm like, this is nothing to me. But his was about love and caring, and he grabbed me because he didn't want me to get hurt versus me getting hurt, and they're a very successful family, but he suffered so much. And everyone wanted to be hush-hush. And I told his son, I said, this is something you don't have to hide. Because later in life, I seek some therapy on my own. And I said, it's okay for him to get help. I said, you guys don't need to hide that he has this. And so when I started launching my eyeglass company stuff later in life, I reached out to him. And he said, we went and let him get help. Because I didn't understand it, but it was just so traumatic. And so I understood with flashbacks, whereas later in life I had flashbacks, and it was such trauma. And to live with that all the time, there is a source of help, because often veteran thinks that if they ask for help, that something's wrong with them, that then they're not going to be recognized as a veteran. That the military is not going to recognize. Yes, and weakness. And now you give them this loving place that it's okay to feel that way, and it's safe. Because we have to look at that as safe. Because even when Biden made the address, when he was talking about his son, the smoke and all that, we're recognizing things that are affecting our veterans. And that is really critical.
1 minute.
So I just thank you for recognizing this.
Oh, well, what you're doing with this radio show, you're reaching out, you're helping people. And we receive the message of recovery in so many different ways, visually, audibly, experientially, and you're taking yet another pathway and carrying the message of recovery. So God bless you for the work that you're doing.
Mm-hmm. And thank you, though. For I don't even know if I knew how to explain myself.
I call it being loud and proud.
Amen.
I'll do that. Okay, you guys ready?
Yep. And boy, you got such a selection of songs. And those of you listening behind the scenes, we had an emotional moment. But tell us about the song, and then we're going to go right into your book and how you came up with your book. So, Major John Donovan, go ahead and tell us about the song.
Yeah, well, Bonnie Raitt is a person in long-term recovery.
Oh, you know what? I didn't have. Did you even know that?
Nope.
No.
Stevie Ray Vaughan, the incredible guitarist who passed away some years ago in Wisconsin, that tragic helicopter crash. He was playing with Eric Clapton, another person in long-term recovery. Stevie Ray was a person in long-term recovery, and he brought the message of recovery to Bonnie Raitt. And so I love this song. I mean, I just think she's an incredible artist. But The Nick of Time, how many of us can say, yeah, I got the message of recovery in the nick of time?
Yes.
You know, it's often said that the only self-help meeting that you're late for is your first one.
Yep.
And then after that, if you come in at the last minute just for the closing prayer, hey, you got there in the nick of time. And so Bonnie Raitt's message there, I just think it's an incredible song, but it always reminds me of recovery. Recovery there in the nick of time.
Almost excellent. And real quickly, I'm going to read a disclaimer. WFNU LP is a volunteer-run station made up of many different community voices. Each program expresses one aspect of this diversity and not the view of WFNU or Frogtown tuned in as a whole. And if anyone wants to make a calling question, 651-313-5125 or 763-843-4262. You can text me. And so let's talk about your book. What is the name of your book?
So I chose the title A Soldier's Recovery Journey. As a soldier who served for 27 years in the armed forces, and I've been on a recovery journey for 43 years now, and many of those years were spent in the armed forces. I carried the message of recovery to my fellow soldiers. I was stationed in Germany when the wall fell, and my local self-help group responded by packing boxes of recovery literature and then sending them to the former Warsaw countries of Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, that heretofore were forbidden from having the message of recovery. And we were able to send them recovery literature. And so this is a book about my experiences in recovery. It is a collection of over 50 essays on youth, war, and recovery.
And so talk about the essays. That's interesting. We talked about that before, but for those of you who did not have a chance, because I know we have listeners out there, another person saying, great show, just thank you for being honest and sharing your story. So we got listeners out there making comments. So talk about the essays, because your book is a little different. I don't have a copy with me. I had looked at it before when I was at Recovery Cafe in Frogtown. But and you were at the grand opening, so I appreciate that. But I'm on my new journey now, so I'm doing all this other work that I'm excited about. But one of the things is that your book has these essays about individuals. So where did you come up with that? Where's that? How did you just decide to start writing? With all that you do, where does the book come in and fit into your whole journey of recovery? Is it to share that? And how does a person get your book right now, too?
Sure. So the essays, call it, reading for somebody who has ADHD. If you don't want to go into a Stephen King or a J.R.R. Tolkien novel that's really, really long, you can read one of these stories in about 2 minutes. So there's 50 essays in there. So, it's got a quick beginning, middle, and end. And really, I started writing at the start of the computer age. And so I wrote a recovery essay, and then I was just able to save it on a digital file. And then during COVID, when COVID hit, and we were kind of locked down, we were going to Zoom meetings, there wasn't a lot of interaction, I thought, gee, I need a project or I'm going to go stir crazy here. And so I went through this old file that had all of these stories that I had written over the years, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to use a kind of thread to connect all of those stories together, and the end result was A Soldier's Recovery Journey, which is sold exclusively at Books Revisited in St. Cloud. So if your listeners are interested in getting a copy, they can get it at Books Revisited in St. Cloud. If that's inconvenient for them, they can reach out to me via Facebook, and I'd be happy to facilitate.
Is there a link to that, or is it? Do you just have to go to St. Cloud and do that?
There a link to the Facebook page or a link to
Yeah, to get the book.
Yeah. Well, they would have to go physically or call Books Revisited. in
Okay,
St.
so
Cloud.
what I'll do is we can maybe put something they're interested in there on our page, on our Rise Up Hour, if they're interested in getting your book,
Sure.
to contact you, and we'll figure out how to get it. But if you're making a trip up to St. Cloud, go to Books Revisited.
Books
So-
Revisited, downtown St. Cloud, right off of St. Germain Street.
And Colin, if you're listening, it'd be a great book to pick up and read. Sorry, frat house that. Okay. So, I get kids in college gotten up there to start listening. It's good. It gives them different perspective. They have the time or not, but they pick up the show once in a while. They know me, so they're listening, and maybe they get to hear something that makes it just a little different somewhere.
Well, if they're attending St. Cloud State University, I donated a couple of copies to the library there so they could pick it up for free.
Yeah, and it's amazing what you do at St. Cloud University too. So I'm really happy about that. So we're going to go into some more songs real quickly, and then I just think this is such a great day. I appreciate everything that you do. And what songs are they now?
Gwen Stefani.
Oh, wait, Brent Stefan.
Stefani.
Ah, I know the song.
Sweet Escape. So, just so you know, we have to be off air at 1:56, right?
Okay.
So it really cuts it down. So I'll probably fade out the second song,
Yep.
so you have enough closing time.
Hey, everyone.
Oh, can I flash your book?
Yeah.
Yes. There you go.
I just think it's great what you're doing up there, and I just, I gotta tell you, though, I love our, we never can interview the same,
Yeah.
but you're so deep on so many different levels, and your intelligence is just so far out there. I mean, it's just like,
This is not enough time. I never
no,
really
it
have
is
enough
like
time
really,
to forget.
and this is deep, and the fact that we talked about veterans, and and then also talked about, you're so active in all these different areas, which is really important. I think that's so critical that it helps, because I think you've also gone through all this training, and then first of all, you're a certified peer recovery specialist, and you guys do trainings up there as well.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, as we segue out of this song, I'd like to talk about that because there's some great opportunities for free RCA training, the Recovery Coach Academy, through our organization. We're going to be doing one in June and then two toward the end of the summer.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
We'll just
because we really support things like that.
Yeah, and
No payment plans, right?
no
I'm
payment
joking.
plans? Well, the-
Inside
It's an inside joke, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Don't go
just in
there.
case, because if you offer a service, and someone can't afford it, hey,
Right.
just offer it from another organization that can offer it, because can't afford it. Hey, there's organizations that offer it for free. That's what you call it on scholarship and stuff. Oh, I think that's neat.
So the
Because I'm going to try to get into trainings and do outreach, and I'm also a Steve Brum, the Home Network trainer.
yeah,
I get a lot of calls too. There's a big community looking for St. Cloud resources.
well, direct them our way.
I've been doing that for.
Thank you. And we have a ton of resources up there, but it's that connection. It's that finding of it,
And
that-
St. Cloud's got a big problem.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And I've talked about anything blue don't touch. I mean, that's the new word out right now. Are you in contact with law enforcement there too?
We are. As a matter of fact,
Because I know there's a real big concern right now.
Chief Bentrude, who is the chief of police for Waite Park, has invited me to speak at his Rotary meeting. I think that's coming up next month. And then I served in Iraq with the Lieutenant Marty Sayre, who is the chief of their SWAT team there.
Oh, cool.
And so Marty knows I'm in recovery, and we are in contact on a frequent basis about recovery options, recovery.
Oh, cool. And go ahead, share that song.
Yeah, so Gwen Stefani. If I get through this story without breaking up, no, I'm not going to get through it without breaking up. So, this song has nothing to do with Iraq, and every time I hear it, I think of Iraq. Because I was in a human resource section for a battalion of over 1,000 soldiers. And this was on the deployment of the 1st Brigade Combat Team out of Bloomington, Minnesota, that ended up serving over 2 years. They were deployed, and then they got extended, and their total time deployed away from home was 22 months. When I reached them and joined this human resource section, the people who were working there had lost, up until that time, about 15 soldiers. During the time that we were there, we would lose approximately another 5. And so for that entire deployment, we lost 20 soldiers. And these people who worked in that human resource section were the ones who would first get notified that a soldier had been killed or wounded. And they would be responsible for printing off that message and then taking it to the commander 24/7, whether he was sleeping or he was in his office, or if he was at the chow hall. They would be the ones who would say, "Excuse me, sir, but I beg to report that so-and-so has been killed in action." And so what does that do? What does that have to do with Gwen Stefani? Well, whenever this song would come on, and we would have the radio playing in the background, Armed Forces Radio Network, streamed anywhere that we're deployed, whenever this song would come on, they would all stand up and they would look at me and they'd go, "Sir, we need a dance break." And then they would start dancing and turn the radio up as loud as they possibly could. Now, if you had been a senior officer and you walked into my section, you would think that I had lost complete control over these soldiers. But I understood that they needed to de-stress as much as they could because they had a terribly heartbreaking job. Mm-hmm. And I was like, "You play Gwen Stefani as loud as you want."
How beautiful is that? That is that's the grace of God. That's beautiful, and the fact that you allow that, and you get it, that's even more beautiful. You're a beacon of light for the recovery community, and I just want to say thank you so much on that. And we only have
4 minutes.
4 minutes. So wow. Resource. So let's talk about your training that's coming up. Let's talk about, hey, for those of you who want to find out about recovery coaching and are interested, there's some resources out there. So I know we're all kind of catching our composure for those listening live. And this is what happens on the Rise Up Hour. And by the way, RISE stands for Recovery is RIS, okay. Recovery is, I can't even do it, I'm so emotional, I'm sorry. Saving everything. Recovery is saving everything. I'm emotional. I don't get this bad often, but he's getting me today. So let's just go ahead and talk about, this is on you. I just want to say, Major John Donovan, go ahead and talk about what you guys are doing up in St. Cloud for those interested.
Yeah, so through a grant through the Central Minnesota EMS, Emergency Medical Services, we're going to have an opportunity to present a couple recovery coach academies, which you have gone through, which I have gone through, the team at MRC has gone through, Bridge has gone through, Caddy facilitates it, so we're really excited about that. And this grant is going to make these trainings available right in Central Minnesota. EMS is one of the partners, and we are so grateful to be providing these opportunities to people in recovery in the Central Minnesota area. And then to those veterans in recovery from the Central Minnesota area, there's an opportunity for them to go through the program absolutely free. And so it's not just a scholarship that they would have to work off hours. This would be completely paid for. So for those people who are listening, our website is Recovery Community Network, all one word, spelled just like it sounds, recoverycommunitynetwork.com. Our telephone number is 320-428-1887. I'll say that again, 320-428-1887. And if they're interested in any of those opportunities, plus the peer recovery services that we offer, the recovery telephone services that we offer, the 8 self-help meetings that we have a week, plus a plethora of services in housing and coaching and other things, please get in touch with us, recoverycommunitynetwork.com.
And how much do these services cost?
Zero money. We receive funding through the state of Minnesota, and then we also have generous donors and benefactors, and we're able to provide all of these services free of charge.
Did you hear that? So you guys don't ever hesitate or worry, even if you just have questions. Just reach out. That is amazing. And I am just so blessed to have you today. And all you listeners, if you need to get this information, you can go to our Rise Up Hour and or go to, actually, you know what? You can go to Behind the Scenes YouTube channel. And it's called the Rise Up Hour. We have more subscribers now, or you can go to the Facebook group that's Rise Up Hour. Join us and follow us on there. And then again, the other thing is, if you have any questions, remember you can send me an email at the riseuphour at gmail.com, and I can refer you in any way you need to. And let's do a special thank you to Major John Donovan. Bless your heart. You have really just blessed me. And I'm going to come up there and see you guys sometime because I'm trying to figure some training out for naloxone training. And by the way, next Friday, April 1st, which is April Fool's Day, at noon and at 4 o'clock, I'm doing a hybrid training for naloxone at Minnesota Recovery Connection in the conference room and on Zoom. So I have the Zoom sheet, but now we're going to do this whole, I'm trying something different. So you guys join me on that. And Jason Rondine will be here next week with podcast Way Out. Just remember these things. And everyone, just be happy in recovery, and thank you for joining us on the Rise Up Hour. Have a great day. I think
That's a wrap.
Yep. That's from last week.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
just our auto recording that. It's for the station. It has to
We
be,
have
it has to be off at a certain time to.
Wow. Oh, and I get someone. Oh, another person said something. Okay. You just really touched some people today. That's great.
Okay. You guys are good.
Yes.
Oh, it's still
Thank
lighting.
you, man.
Thanks, everybody.
Oh, John.
We're going to end the broadcast.
This was so much fun.
Oh, that's great. Bless you so much. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.